This is a story for All Hallows Eve of a man called Bob who you'll see is naive. Without much thought in his small-brained head, he'd taken a job from a paper he'd read. Warden wanted, said the notice inside. It didn't take long for him to decide.
200 per week?
He screamed with joy.
I'm definitely the man that they will employ.
And he was hired. He'd gotten the place, but only because it was a one-horse race. So off out to sea went Bob on a boat to an island you'd definitely class as remote. There was nobody else in the whole of the mainland who would take on a job patrolling a wasteland. His job was simple, or so it would seem. Protect this island.
That's it? What a dream!
As fast as it could, the boat it was leaving. It would later return to collect in the evening. Bob couldn't guess why it left in a hurry.
This place, I say, feels rather lovely.
But there was one little thing that Bob didn't know. The last man in charge, he was gone. No show. The reason that nobody wanted the post was because of the legendary small island ghost. Patrolling an island was quite a strange job. Thinking of tasks was a challenge for Bob. He checked on the lighthouse and it felt rather strong. He'd looked round the beaches, the walk was quite long. When it was time to stop for some lunch, he felt someone watching. That was his hunch. He was sure there was nobody else on the isle, but it left him unsettled for a very long while.
It's all in your mind,
said Bob to himself.
200 a week. Think of the wealth.
But before he could dream of the money he'd spend, he'd seen something new just round the bend. A small little hut. It looked quite perfect, except it seemed there'd been some conflict. On closer inspection, Bob could now tell this hut is where the warden would dwell.
Oh.
The man who had held this position before, his belongings were scattered all over the floor. Bob looked down at the scene so violent, a photo of a man who was close to retirement. It wouldn't take long for Bob to find out what happened here would be left in no doubt. As Bob stood up and turned to the coast, he saw the approaching small island ghost. There was no time to think. He ran at full speed. A hiding place was what was in need. The mood now shifted and the wind made a groan. All had now changed. Bob wasn't alone. He poked out his head from the small hiding place, hoping to God there'd be no more chase. Dusk now approached, and Bob had no plan. It was fight or flight, so he got up and ran. On such a small island, he couldn't go far. Running in circles would just be bizarre. So he stopped for a minute, or two at the most, and then it appeared, the same frightening ghost. It moved towards him in an unnerving way.
Jesus!
Cried Bob.
What an awful first day!
The ghost wouldn't stop. Its chase was relentless. If Bob didn't act, this run would be endless. Inside the hut, there must be protection. Something to hurt this ghostly projection. Bob grabbed the door and pulled all he could. He broke it all up and picked up the wood. He wasn't quite sure how to injure the ghost, but perhaps it would work with a jab of the post. Bob laid in wait for the ghost to appear. He tried to stay calm and hide all the fear. It didn't take long that the phantom arrived. Time to decide if Bob would survive. The ghost looked confused and stopped in its tracks. To some it would seem that the ghost had relaxed. But this wasn't seen by our hero named Bob. He jumped from behind to finish his job. He smashed the post on top of the ghost. It fell to the floor. It was clear it was toast.
Oh.
Now something strange, even Bob would concede. He was sure the ghost didn't normally bleed. On closer inspection of this white spooky soul, it looked like a bedsheet with one or two holes. Bob dropped the post and pulled up the sheet. The first thing he saw was a couple of feet.
Shit,
said Bob.
I've made a mistake. I think this ghost just might have been fake.
He pulled back the costume and it all quickly twigged. The scene behind him, it all had been rigged. Bob fetched the photo of the old Warden Frank. It appeared he was pulling one very big prank. There was no way that Bob could really explain. This man in front had clearly been slain. He had little time for too much concern. Soon he knew the boat would return. No chance of parole.
I'll be sent to prison.
Inside his head, a plan had arisen. He hid Frank's body and washed up the linen. It was time for Bob to become the new villain. He put on the sheet and stood by the shore.
200 a week. I'd rather be poor.
The boat sailed near and saw a faint figure. Enough, at least, for fear to be triggered. It reset its course and returned to the bay. This is what Bob would now do every day. He'd keep them away, or scared at the most. Bob was now known as the Small Island